So first off, I want to thank everyone for being here today. Thank you for being an active participant in your democracy. Now more than ever, we need Rhode Islanders and really all Americans to step forward, to speak out, to rally, to advocate for what is right, whether it relates to marijuana policy or any other issue. There's never been a greater need to be civically engaged, and I salute all of you for doing that today. So give yourselves a round of applause for caring about something and advocating for it. My name is Matt Schwi. I work for the Marijuana Policy Project. We've been around since 1995, changing marijuana laws all across the country. We've been working here in Rhode Island for many years, and we were the driving force behind passage of the state's decriminalization and medical marijuana laws. Last year, I served as the campaign director for the legalization campaigns in Maine and Massachusetts. We're gathered here on this beautiful day in front of our beautiful State House to make a simple request. We want the General Assembly to vote this year on a bill to legalize, regulate, and tax marijuana. We believe that it is time to end the failed policy of prohibition. It's a policy that turns otherwise law-abiding adults into criminals. It's a policy that breeds social injustice. It's a policy that wastes law enforcement resources. It's a policy that a growing number of states are abandoning, including 3 of our neighbors in New England, perhaps 4. It's a policy of prohibition that nearly 60% of Rhode Islanders oppose. We do not want the General Assembly to choose the status quo because the status quo has failed us. Legalizing, regulating, and taxing marijuana is the best available public policy decision. Maine and Massachusetts voters have approved it. The Vermont legislature recently passed a bill to legalize marijuana for adults with the possibility of allowing regulated sales in the future. And just today it was announced that the Connecticut legislature is seriously considering legalization this year, which would turn Rhode Island into an island of prohibition. And meanwhile, Massachusetts is moving ahead with implementing its law. There will be stores opening in the summer of 2018. And when they open, Rhode Islanders will drive to Massachusetts, purchase marijuana, and drive back because they don't want to be criminals. Because we'd rather purchase marijuana from a regulated system where the product is safe, where the product's been tested.
Pay taxes here.
And it's just a simple reality that as soon as the stores open in Mass, Rhode Islanders are going to go there and otherwise live law-abiding lives. So if we don't start the process of legalizing marijuana this year, we'll just end up rushing to do it later. And in the meantime, we'll donate tax revenue, donate economic activity, donate new jobs to our richer neighbor, while doing absolutely nothing to diminish the availability of legal marijuana other than adding some minutes to your drive to Mass. We want to avoid that because that situation doesn't make sense. But all we're asking for is a vote. And we're not unreasonable people. We're not absolutists. If there's an alternative piece of legislation, for example, a bill that changes the timeline for implementing legalization in Rhode Island, or a bill that places specific rules or regulations on, say, edibles or packaging, we're ready to work with the General Assembly. We're open to compromise. However, we will not walk away from this session quietly, because when nearly 60% of Rhode Islanders support an idea, that idea deserves a vote from the General Assembly. If there were a vote this year, and hopefully there will be, and if the Speaker and Senate President stood up in their respective chambers and argued vehemently against legalization, I would respect that. I would disagree with them, but I would respect it. Because that's why we have a General Assembly. That's why we have state reps and state senators to debate bills and to vote on them. If the House and Senate ultimately held those votes on legalization, I would respect the outcome, win or lose. I don't know about you, but I'd rather be defeated in a real vote than be ignored for another year. We have confidence in our position. We're ready to take our chances on the floor of the House and the Senate. Now, don't get me wrong, if the House and Senate chose to reject legalization, I'd be very disappointed. But at least the legislative process would have showed some respect to the will of the people by taking up the issue for a vote. And Rhode Islanders would know where their elected officials stand.
Amen.
So this isn't just a question of marijuana policy reform. This is really also a question of how the General Assembly makes public policy decisions. So on marijuana, I say let's buck the trend. Let's break the rules. Let's have a real debate and a real vote on the floor of the House and on the floor of the Senate. If hardly anybody supported legalization, if all the people in Rhode Island that supported legalization were just the people here, then maybe I could understand the lack of a vote. But the reality is, a strong majority of Rhode Islanders want a new approach. Now, that majority should not dictate how the General Assembly votes. After all, this is a representative democracy. We elect reps, we elect senators, they debate, they vote, and then they face judgment at the polls when they run for re-election. That's representative democracy. That's a good system. And it's worth noting that few things in politics require more courage than voting your conscience in the face of contradicting public pressure. However, while the majority is not entitled to the outcome it prefers, it is, in my opinion, entitled to a vote. That majority deserves a vote, especially after 7 years of debate without so much as a vote in committee. It's been 7 years. Let's have a vote. And speaking of committees, you may be surprised to hear that there is a marijuana bill moving through the process, and it appears that bill will get a vote in the House. Unfortunately, it's a study commission bill intended to delay a decision until next year. So today, the House Judiciary Committee will convene right here in the State House, and they'll vote on that study commission bill. Now, some might claim that that's progress or a sign that we're serious now, but I consider it a defense of the status quo with a ribbon on top. A study commission is unnecessary because it will be a forum for the same debate that we have in the committees every year and the same debate that we would have in the House and Senate, only it can't pass legislation. Honestly, I think it's disrespectful to Rhode Island voters for the House Judiciary Committee to only hold a vote on the study commission bill today. At the very least, both the study commission and legalization bills should be voted on in committee. I think it's unacceptable that we find ourselves in the following situation. The bill that voters oppose gets a vote, but the bill that voters support is ignored. That's not right. So we're here today to remind the General Assembly of the 59% of Rhode Islanders who support legalization, to remind the General Assembly that the people of this state are paying attention. But the work isn't finished here today. Again, I want to thank everyone for coming out. It means a lot when you step out on an issue you believe in and take the time out of your day to advocate for it. But our work doesn't end today. We need everybody here. Call your state rep, call your state senator. You can look them up online. You can go to our website to look them up, regulateRI.com. We need you to call your state rep and state senator. We need you to call the speaker and the Senate president. Ask them for a vote. We need you to call the governor. Ask her to support legalization. We need you to ask your friends, family, and colleagues to do the same. So follow our Facebook page, sign up for our email alerts. We'll let you know when we need your support in these final weeks of the legislative session. Simply put, our work does not end today. There's only a few weeks left, but as anybody knows, a lot can happen in the final few weeks of a legislative session in Rhode Island. So we got to keep pushing all the way to the bitter end. So again, I want to thank everyone for being here and for showing your commitment to better public policy in Rhode Island.